righty then. Well, speaking of not doing any good.
I knew
it. Should we go again? You know, they start promising every Wednesday night. You don't have to stay up late anymore because all the jerk-worthy stuff is at the top of the program.
This week's show, though, more than most weeks' show, there was a just steady slide from the first segment all the way to the last segment. It wasn't like peaks and valleys. It was just kind of straight downhill.
Sort of like, who was that skier? Spider Savage that got shot by his lover? He was going down, 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 and he started to go up, and then she shot him, and he went down.
What?
But that was a Saturday Night Live sketch, I think, that they did early on. This fucking Claudine Longet, that was the girl's name, International Ski Jumping Championship. And they had fucking pictures or video of the ski jumpers coming off the jump and doing some crazy bump in the air and falling, but they'd insert a gunshot right before they lost control. So they come off the ski jump, then you hear, bam, and then they fucking go everywhere.
All right.
It's hilarious if you were alive 50 years ago and remember her shooting that guy. Anyway, AEW, Wednesday night, April the 20th. And, of course, we're going to try to keep those Big Bang Theory ratings. Can you believe it has come to this that a reruns of a not really the greatest situation comedy in the world is drawing 500,000 people more than the wrestling program? That would not have been the case back in the local television days, I assure you. Anyway, so immediately to keep those ratings, like Mussolini, the only star we got, he's coming out again and he's hot. They're loading the wagon. What was it they used to say? If you think of, a donkey can't pull the wagon, load it up or whatever, right? Well, they've loaded everything behind CM Punk. And he's the first. It's just like we've got to put him there to try to keep these people, right? But again, I wanted to see this because it's a single match with Dustin Rhodes. And the start of the show, the crowd, the building, Punk's entrance, he's a star. They're playing real music from a recognized artist. This show looks major league when they kick it off. And Dustin comes. Did we say this before, or was I talking about Dustin or somebody else? But now he's in the conversation. Is he the best 53-year-old since Nick Bockwinkel?
You said that before, and if he isn't, he's certainly up on that list. Of course, he's not working a full-time schedule, but whenever we see him, it's always impressive.
I mean, and here, I can't remember how old Punk is. He's 40-something, right?
He's my
40.
age, 42, I think.
Okay. So the combined age in this match of the two participants was 95, and they're two of the best workers on the roster. And it's a babyface match. There's two clear baby faces. So the handshake at start works there. And there's no blood feud. There's no reason to start trying to break the guy's bones or throw him through tables within 2 or 3 minutes of this. They did some nice running spots, some, as the boys used to say, some tic tackles and flip flops. Worked head scissors. Punk couldn't get the bow and arrow on Dustin because he's too tall. He couldn't get around both the ankles and the chin and get him up in the leverage. But they had a wrestling match. And they would sell shit that happened to him along the way. Punk at one point dropped down. Dustin went over him and out of control and bumped to the floor and sold his knee. And then once that Punk goes out and gets him and rolls him in, Punk is able to get a little rough with the leg because there has to be somebody particularly to cheer for. So he lightly led the people to get behind Dustin, who's the underdog, and you want to be the sympathetic figure. And he gets heat on Dustin's leg. And then they go to the break, and apparently right before it came back, they did the deal where Punk is going to drop on Dustin's leg on the bottom rope like Flair used to set up the figure four, but Dustin does the deal where he puts his foot in Punk's ass, kicks him over the top rope, and creates some space. So Punk goes back to the leg, but Dustin kicks him into the post and then drops him on the apron. And now they're going back and forth. Dustin started a comeback with a backdrop. I swear to God, you can watch 12 wrestling programs these days and you will not see one backdrop. They all want to take every dangerous bump in the world, but nobody wants to take a backdrop. I liked where Dustin gave him the 10 punches in the corner and then jumped down and sold his left knee. So Punk had an opening and he charged, but Dustin hit the code red thing, got a nice 2 count. And then Dustin still, Punk will try to go for his finish. Dustin will come out of it, power slam, 2 count. They got to figure 4 and started slapping each other because that's all you can reach in the figure 4. They're slapping each other and then punching each other in the face. Dustin turns him. Punk gets a rope break. And the AEW fans there in the building start chanting, "This is awesome," for a wrestling match. They can tell when people are doing something well. They don't have to be force-fed the fucking gaga. Dustin foiled a springboard and hit a crossroads and a kind of a wonky pile driver for a 2 count. I didn't mind the kick out there because it wasn't a great pile driver. But then Dustin goes into the dusty jabs. Punk hits the roundhouse kick, which missed Dustin's side of his head and tatered him in the back of his head with his heel as he went by, but went for the go to sleep. Dustin slips out. Punk catches his legs and kneels on him. Boom, 1, 2, 3. Clean finish. Nice match. The first 20 minutes of the show looks big time. And they can do hugs and shows of respect now because nothing they did in the match would preclude them from wanting to do that if it was real. It was a contest, but nobody hated the other guy. And then, Punk's leaving, and Adam Page's music plays, and they come out and have a face-to-face stare down, apparently just for that. They go to the break, and then Page leaves, because he's not there when we come back. But again, for the first 20 minutes, recognizable names, experienced professionals, a big crowd, names on the announce team, music, reaction. They look like a big-time deal. And then their content slowly goes down the porcelain throne. Your thoughts?
Really enjoyed it. I'm really enjoying everything with Punk right now. I actually was thinking the other day that by and large, may be enjoying his work now than I ever did before. There were matches I liked. There were promos I liked. But I don't know if there's ever been just an entire run, an entire period of time where I've enjoyed so much of it. It's because his matches have that feeling that I want.
The contrast between what we're seeing almost everywhere else with everybody else and what he's given us. And Danielson and a couple other people.
Yeah, but with Punk specifically, when you see his face during a match and his hair is covered in sweat and he looks like he's grinding and he's really working as hard as he can, it kind of can get you to lose yourself into what professional wrestling is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it. My only other comment would be hearing Dustin's promo the other day and, the way his voice, it's a lot more gravelly than it used to be. And seeing Dustin work, is it crazy to think that maybe they could do something with him as a heel so he doesn't have to do as much physically? Because, I don't know, to have him, someone recognized by just about everyone who knows anything as being one of the, like you said, one of the best workers of all time over the age of 50, but he's just a mid-card or lower babyface that appears every now and then and has a really great match and loses. But everyone knows who he is, and he's actually doing great work whenever he's out there. Is there something better that could be done with him? And I don't think it could be as a babyface, quite frankly.
Well, and to be honest with you, considering that he probably knows how to heel better than most of the people on the roster, also, you could do something with him. And I don't know whether Tony Khan just thinks, well, I want him to just be the elder statesman and have the good match with guys or whatever, but you could certainly get better television out of a heel-motivated Dustin Rhodes with a grudge against some. Maybe he's got a grudge because of the way the company treated his family on the way out. Something. And get people interested in that. And then, obviously, if he's taking an AEW stance that most of the fans would probably disagree with that. Yeah, you could do something with him because he's talented and he knows what he's doing. Maybe they just thought, oh, when the start of the thing, he'll be a coach and he'll be this and that. But no, considering what you've got up and down the rest of the roster, don't sleep on Dustin Rhodes. Speaking of sleeping, I don't want to... Somebody had some kind of dream. I understand the whole thing with Wardlow, and it's working, and he's getting over, and beating up the security I'm loving, and whatever. But when they've got Mark Sterling, who's obviously bullshit because he doesn't ever sound serious. A lawyer can get heat as a manager, an agent, or whatever, but it's not. This is showbiz stuff. But he confronts Wardlow in the back with security and with all the rules of how Wardlow has to conduct himself while he's in the building. He can't leave security. He can't touch anybody. MJF, he can't do anything. But also, he has to be handcuffed. And they're actually taking him to the locker room handcuffed. And how'd he take a shit and wipe his ass in the locker room? And they bring him out handcuffed, and they've got to take the... Is that comedy getting in the way of the success they're already having with getting Wardlow over as a monster? Just needless. It's needless funniness when people are into what else you're doing.
The handcuffs seem really unnecessary, and it's the one down part about all this. And when it comes to this specific segment, it's funny, I thought about the MJF segments, other than Jericho shit, that I've liked the least are usually the ones where he's with Mark Sterling, who, if he's an attorney or not, he seems like a fake attorney on TV. He doesn't seem real in any way, so you can't even pretend. Just seems like a guy performing. So I don't like his inclusion in this, although it does bring some consistency with earlier MJF stuff. They are on such a great ride, so much momentum with the Wardlow stuff. To me, the handcuffs, specifically just the handcuffs, took everything down a notch.
Speaking of taking things down a notch, let's go to our next match. The Blackpool Combat Club, Danielson, Moxley, and Yuta against Brock Anderson, Dante Martin, and Lee Moriarty with Arn Anderson. Now that Cody's gone, I understand there's a connection with Brock as his son, but he's just managing job guy baby faces for the top guy baby faces that work like heels to beat. Yuta got new tights. Did you see that?
I thought of you right away.
Thank fucking God. He looks better. Every babyface gets his own entrance in this, but at least Moxley goes straight to the ring from the parking lot now. And they jump an immediate six-way. Mox gets in a fight on the floor for about 10 or 15 seconds, and everybody just goes to their corners and starts a tag team match. And again, is the Blackpool Combat Club, are they baby faces or heels, Brian?
Yes. I have no idea. I thought they were heels because Danielson was going heel, but Moxley's been a baby face. But Regal kind of acts heelish, but how do you boo Regal? He's great.
And
Yuta's the underdog. Is Yuta the heel?
Yeah. You got a beloved, legend as the manager. You've got Danielson, that was the best heel in the business 6 weeks ago. You've got Moxley, who's a baby face in that environment, but he's the shits. And you've got Yuta, who's the feisty underdog that won't give up. And they're working against 3 stone cold baby faces. I'm not talking about Stone Cold Austin. I'm talking about stone cold, flat, obvious baby faces. The son of Arn Anderson, Dante Martin, the leaping fellow, and Lee Moriarty. With Arn in the corner. So why are they feeding babyface jobbers to babyfaces that have to work like heels? So they have to beat these guys. Basically, Brock has a nice little spine buster. Moriarty and Danielson did some nice stuff. There was one spot where it was Dante Martin against Moxley. And Martin backflips and then lands by the ropes, and Moxley charges at him, and Martin is supposed to flip again, but he either forgot or couldn't get his balance on the rope, and Moxley just charged right past him to the right about 3 feet and flew headfirst through the ropes for no reason. So Dante could then do a big dive on him and Moxley could obviously catch him. But then Martin pops right back up to his feet after coming off the top rope and blasting the guy, and down they go, jumps up and grabs Moxley and pulls him up before either one of them could sell anything and just throws him back in the ring. And then all 3 members of the Combat Club beat up all 3 of the other baby faces, and Moxley hit his DDT 1, 2, 3. So there you had that.
I thought it was all right as a match. I liked it more than I have the previous weeks, especially now that we're done kind of playing with the what is Yuta. Now he's an official member. But like I said last time, it's a little ridiculous, everyone coming out to their own entrance if they're a team. And when do they see Moxley? Do they see him in the back and say, all right, we'll see you out in the ring, go to your spot in the hallway? Or do they not even see him before the match? It's like, well, we don't know if he's here. Hopefully, when they hit his music, he just magically appears with that security guard over there. Other than that, Dante Martin, always better having facial hair. Without facial hair, he looks like a brunette Art Garfunkel doing high spots. And apparently his brother is hurt again. I heard that his brother hurt his leg again. So even though Top Flight, he just came back from a ACL injury, I believe. They had reunited. And unfortunately, it sounds like his brother is out again. So Dante will be wrestling either singles or, makeshift 6-man matches.
Well, speaking of makeshift matches, the next segment was a brief pre-tape in the back with the Hardley Boys, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, Adam Cole. They do some bland scripted verbiage that they have to do amongst each other. It's like a charisma vacuum where every time they get together, each one of them are less interesting than ever before. But anyway, and they needed a better scripter, but next week is a 10-man tag team match. Oh, joy, oh, bliss, with all of these guys against some other people. Did you see the package with Jay Lethal and Sanjay Dutt and Samoa Joe and Satnam Singh, the Pinhead?
I did. I thought the package did a better job than anything else of kind of laying out what all this is.
But Zippy gets subtitles. Even Jorge, old Giant Gonzalez, could get out, I want the belt. But this guy he's speaking English and he still gets subtitles. And so that's their plan to dominate the country of India. If you were from somewhere, let's just say, for example, that you were born somewhere, right?
I was born somewhere. This is
okay. Well, then you can do this easily without pretending. If you looked and wrestled and acted like Satnam Singh, would the people where you were from want other people to know you were from there?
Yes. Because whenever I sit and think just like how much better my life would be if I was 7 feet tall and how much different it would be and all the doors that would open that I would probably walk headfirst right into because of my 7-foot stature, I always figure that if you're 7 feet tall, everyone would be like, oh, that's our giant. We love our giant. So I think they would support it, yeah.
But what if you're 7 feet tall and you still have to cut your hair in a pencil sharpener?
Then I don't know. I probably wear a hat.
All right, then. The big announcement. And again, Tony got publicity. There's a big announcement of some kind every week now, which tends to temper the anticipatory excitement over the announcements because they come quite often and they're sometimes not, a mountainous statement. And this segment brought up one of the problems I've been saying that they have is that they have no one representing the promotion, no representative, or I hate the word figurehead, but no representative, no person in charge of speaking on behalf of AEW on television, except for Tony Khan, who apparently they had realized that on an announcement like this, where there not only need to be an announcement made, but also matches revealed and some other things, that he couldn't do this. He's not a television performer or a public speaker, and he's in over his head. So they actually have the heel wrestler make the big announcement on behalf of the promotion. Have you ever seen that before in your life? Ever, in any wrestling, ever, anywhere, where one of the top heels would make the announcement of the business move that the promotion has just made?
I have not, but I also wouldn't call Adam Cole a top heel right now.
Well, I said one of the, they think he is. Tony Schiavone had introduced Tony Khan, who comes out and awkwardly introduces the president of New Japan Pro Wrestling, Omari-san. Is that his legal name? He has no, he's come from the WWE. He has no first name. Instead of saying the Honorable Hisashi Shinma and tell the people who this fucking guy is, he's familiar with him, so he is his friend Omari-san. And then before they can say anything else, the screen pops up and there's Adam Cole interrupting, and his reason for him being the one to make the announcement is because everybody knows I've wrestled in Japan. So somehow, maybe Adam Cole got Cody Rhodes' executive vice president job, because now Adam Cole is in on all of the news. Nobody knew what this announcement was going to be. Tony Khan advertised it, tune in, big announcement. But before he even makes it, Adam Cole can jump in on the screen, shut the boss up, and make the boss's announcement for him. Because, as I said, it's intricate, requires several different matches being talked about, and Tony was not capable of doing this. They need a Sergeant Slaughter. They need a AEW president. They need a commissioner. They need somebody that the people don't mind listening to and that can say these things in an authoritative way. And they don't. Arn Anderson is out in the corner of the job guys. But could he possibly be a commissioner or fucking authority figure? Jesus Christ. Anyway, then the music hits of Adam Cole's friend. It's Jay White. Jay White, who we saw do something for a while some time ago.
No, not for a while. I think he showed up on Dynamite. They announced him, and then he had a match.
That's what I mean, for a while, about 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, and then he had a match, I think, on like Rampage or something, and then we never saw him again.
Yeah. So he came and showed up and did something a while back. And he comes out and says nothing, and then gets interrupted by the fans, and then basically speaks but still says nothing. And the only good thing about this was Omari-san, whatever his first name may be, looks like a businessman. Tony Khan looked like goddamn, like somebody had broken up the homeless camp.
Did you see his facial reactions to, Adam Cole and Jay White?
I wasn't really looking.
He shouldn't be on camera. And I'm not even trying to be mean or anything. He shouldn't be on camera. The other thing I'm going to say, and once I say this, you may never unhear it again. Did you notice that Adam Cole has like a tick where he stutter starts every sentence?
Okay, I haven't, but now that you say that...
every sentence starts with... he never just says the word. It's a stutter start to every single sentence.
But,
every sentence. You'll hear it next time, now that I said it.
Well, this was a horribly formatted segment that was all over the place. And let's talk about the big announcement. Pay-per-view between... joint pay-per-view, All Elite and New Japan. Okay. I mean, for the people who like that kind of thing, that's the kind of thing those people are going to like. The AEW audience is probably the most predisposed in the world to know anything about or care anything about the current Japanese wrestling scene. And so I think that the fans that they already have and the people that are already into them will probably like this. Is it again going to get them anywhere With anybody else, no. Because if they're not watching AEW right now, they sure as fuck ain't watching New Japan Wrestling or know who the fuck any of those people are. So, I mean, what else is there until we have specific matches? And then we get specific matches, they're going to be, the indie-rific, fans' wet dream of the great practitioners of strong style and don't sell shit coming over to fight our guys who do strong style and don't sell shit. Now with somersaults. Abby, you've been a bigger Japanese fan more recently than I was. I thought it was the greatest wrestling in the world in the 80s when it was. But are you excited?
I'm not, and that's not to say I won't enjoy some of it, because I'd love to see Okada, and I like Ishii, and, there's several other guys I'm a big fan of. I just hope when they bring Okada over, we get to see Okada in a singles main event, not Okada teaming up with Orange Cassidy or something. That's the fear when it comes to anything like this. I'm sure the pay-per-view will be successful because AEW does a great job of converting their viewing audience into paying customers.
Yeah.
And this is right down that alley. But notwithstanding the fact that Tony Khan will make money on that pay-per-view event and the Live House, I just don't know if it's in their best interest to focus on that. I just think you should focus on shit in-house and just fix things that need fixing. Make things better that need to be made better, work on your talent and what's getting on the air, other than, all of a sudden there'll be some New Japan guys just randomly showing up. It'll make some smart fans happy. It'll be some good matches, but I just don't think overall it's to the... Maybe I'm wrong. I just don't know if it's overall to the benefit of the company to just not focus on itself right now.
Well, there does need to be some focusing done. Speaking of, I was a little blurry on this next one, The Butcher. The Butcher! In the first singles match, I guess, that he's ever had on television, has been hired by MJF to, deal with Wardlow. And MJF and Sean Spears are up in the skybox now, and they have a spotlight on the skybox, but literally MJF now has a spotlight. Instead of being in Jericho's group, or instead of being the leader of his own group, but there's 5 or 6 people in it, he's got Spears as a flunky, he's the fucking boss, and he's paying people in his periphery to do his bidding, so a spotlight is on him without him being lost in the crowd. I like this better. Wardlow comes out wearing the handcuffs with security, but they take the cuffs off of him, and... God, I wanted this to be good, and the people wanted it to be good, and the result was good, but it took them a while to get there because, again, they were trying to have Wardlow do things with Butcher to show that Butcher was a bigger guy than he's been facing and more of a threat or whatever. But come on. It's the Butcher. He's been around for a couple of years. They never win anything. He and his partners, they're always in flunky positions. And right now, Wardlow, what's working, don't fucking fix it. He's been Goldberging people in seconds, selling little of nothing. But they had a hoss fight, as some of the fans call it. And, the Butcher's allowed to be throwing chairs in the ring, and they're fighting on the floor. But it was sloppy, because Butcher ain't smooth. And... finally, they let Butcher give Wardlow a power bomb. Of course, he fell down doing it and not on purpose. But I didn't need to see Wardlow be power bombed unless it's by, the big show on pay-per-view at some point in the future, whatever. So then Wardlow gets up and hits the 4 power bombs in a row and gets the people back finally for the finish. 1, 2, 3 and big pop. Butcher is not completely rotten, but he ain't wonderful either. And I don't think this was the thing for Wardlow, and Butcher's not going to be any better or any worse no matter what they do with him at this point. What'd you think?
What would have been more effective? This match the way it was, or even if you wanted to do all the stupid shit with the handcuffs and everything, you have all the security guards walk him out, no music, take off the handcuffs, and he goes in there and beats him in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
A guy that big. That would have been more impressive.
I was about to say, then they try to put the handcuffs back on him, and then he beats up 12 members of security and runs MJF out of the building. The babies would have come in the air, but by the time they got finished watching these two waller around for 4 or 5 minutes, the bloom was off of it.
And the powerbomb was, he shouldn't have been going for it, and then when he fell down, you realize this match should have been shorter and it should have been more effective.
Yeah. So, Eddie Kingston did a promo. Guess who he's facing Friday night on Rampage at the time that this was broadcast?
Your favorite wrestler.
Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia is booked more often than the NWA World Champion used to be. He's on everything. So then there was a match that I held out some hope for, and actually it wasn't rotten, but it affirmed many of my beliefs that I'd had. Kyle O'Reilly against Jungle Boy in a single match. And remember, I've said this every time. If Jungle Boy has a good opponent that leads him, he's great. If he's in with another one of the indie guys that all they want to do is spots, it's a mess. And this bore it out more than normal because O'Reilly, we've said style-wise, he's different, and he's probably our favorite one to watch in a single match of the Undisputed Era back when we liked all the members of the Undisputed Era before they joined, the Lollipop Guild and began playing with the fucking Lilliputians. But unfortunately, it's shown that Jungle Boy, over the last almost 3 years now, has made no progress whatsoever. Because the same things that we were talking about 3 years ago, he's still doing. Even in this showcase match where you see a single match, he's not in a tag with the dinosaur. He's not in the multi-man matches. He looks great. He can sell, except for his facials, I think, are going backwards instead of forwards. He can sell. He's good looking for the young girls. He's got that underdog type persona. But I'm just right. He fights back from underneath and hits like a girl. Just the sidearm things when he's in a chin lock or somebody's trying to throw the gut shots. When they went to a break after the butterfly suplexes, which I don't know how O'Reilly doesn't break his own neck on those, but he makes a comeback. He has no emotion. He needs facials. Then Jungle Boy did the deal where he dumped O'Reilly over the top rope and did a dive, and then went back in the ring and did more shit. But his blank face selling, or when he's firing the people up, instead of a look on his face of triumph or jubilation or animosity or any type of stark emotion, it's the same fucking face. At one point, Jungle Boy overhead belly-to-belly O'Reilly into the buckle. So basically the reverse of what they did when they paralyzed the guy in Japan a couple weeks ago. But immediately O'Reilly's back on offense. They did some back and forth, and then Jungle Boy gets a snare trap. They got a rope break, but it's slowed down, and Jungle Boy he's not that interesting. He's just going from doing one thing to another. You know what I'm saying? It's just, he's doing these things, but there's not the, oh my God, I'm living and dying with it through his emotion and facials and body language.
Playing to the crowd.
He doesn't fire the people up at all, even when there's a spot where he should. And some baby faces do it too much. He doesn't do it at all. It's like he's timid and scared of them and don't want to look, see there's people watching him. But anyway, finally, they did that finish that I fucking despise, where O'Reilly gave Jungle Boy a superplex, and as soon as they landed, Jungle Boy hooked his legs and jackknifed him. So that kills the whole move. But O'Reilly kicked out and suplexed him and hit the sweet knee drop off the top that he does, 1, 2, 3. So again, besides the fact that they kill the superplex, then the heel just gets up and beats the babyface clean. 1, 2, 3, right in the middle of the ring. They're not even trying to be shady. So it wasn't horrible, but, Jungle Boy is where Jungle Boy is going to be, I'm afraid. I'm afraid that he's been in the tag team too long. I'm afraid he's played with the Cucamonga kids and their classmates too long. And I'm afraid that nobody has sat him down and said, you could really be a big fucking deal if you actually learn to work and quit doing the fucking indie bullshit and get rid of the lizard and the whole 9 yards. I think it may be too late. What do you think?
I think so, because I think, to me at least, the Jurassic Express has been there for so long, and they've been on TV nonstop. I feel like they are another one of these acts, for good or for bad, from the early days of AEW, like the Best Friends or other acts that have been around for so long. They're accepted in their role on the card, but for the longtime casual viewer, which in a sense I am with AEW, kind of sick of seeing them. When I see the Jurassic Express, regardless of how they're booked or what the promo or angle is, puts you in that fast-forward mindset. I've seen what they could do. I've seen their matches. I've seen all the kicks. With Jungle Boy, I stand by what I said to you a couple of years ago. I think Powerhouse Hobbs' future is a lot brighter than Jungle Boy's, and that's when everyone was really talking about how big they thought he was going to be. And remember, they were going to try to elevate him with Jericho, and it just never happened. So now he's a little bit older.
He's the same guy he was 3 years ago.
I mean, the only thing maybe were they teasing at the end when he was saying, I'm sorry to Christian, if they were teasing him and Christian, I guess that's something to do, but I don't even know if people really want to see that. So, there was a window to do something with Jungle Boy to break him out. It didn't really happen. He's still in the tag team. They are champions, but who's the top tag team in AEW? FTR or the Young Bucks? If you're a top AEW fan, who do you think are the top tag teams? FTR or the Young Bucks? No one's saying Jurassic Express.
No.
It's like like Manny and Rude having the tag titles.
That was a bit insulting. We put them back on the Rock and Roll because they put them on us, and they turned around and here's Manny and Rude. And Rude was not who Rude would be at that point.
No, Manny and Rude, and meanwhile you had Rock and Roll Midnight, Road Warriors. You had Big Arn and Tully, if you want to even go there, even though they weren't a regular team. You had all these big teams, but Manny and Rude, and that's kind of what the Jurassic Express feel like right now, and I wasn't really into this match at all.
But the problem still is they had a window to do something with Jungle Boy, but now we know he probably wouldn't have been able to carry it because nobody has taken the time to take him under their wing and get rid of his bad habits and teach him how to work. And he may be set in his ways by now. We'll see if some light bulb comes on. MJF was in the back and called Officer Bar Brady a stupid old man. And I didn't think he was that old. And then he paid off, MJF did, not Bar Brady, Jake the Snake Roberts, who came in sweating like a whore in church in this obviously air-conditioned building when everybody else is cool, calm, and collected. It looked like everybody turned a bucket of water over Jake's head. And he did a promo that never mentioned his man that he manages or what the fuck he was coming in and taking money to do. And then in the last 15 seconds, Archer just jumped in and swatted the envelope of money, said, I don't want the money, I just want to beat somebody up. And therein lies the problem with a great wrestling promo trying to become a manager. He has no idea how to talk about other people and get other people over, and we all are a little less mentally nimble than we were when we were younger. Jake still can tell these dark and sinister stories with his promos, but sometimes it sounds like he starts in the middle and you lost something at the beginning, or sometimes it sounds like he left the end off, and he never talks about the guy he's managing. So that's what I thought about this. MJF was great. What'd you think?
Yeah, it was good to see Jake looking healthy.
God damn.
The fuck he came out there. I've never seen anyone sweat like that.
It looked like he was sweating like Elmer's glue or something. It was just...
That may be what's in his hair, his fake hair. Who knows? Lance Archer, I'm trying to think back. He was with Jake, and then he was with Lambert, wasn't he? He joined Lambert's group.
Well, he was with Jake, and he gave Lambert the big razor's edge. And then he joined Lambert. And then he hurt himself. And then he came back and lost a Texas death match that in the first match of his big feud with the world champion was also the last match. And now he's taking payoffs to fuck up Wardlow.
By the time they get Wardlow to MJF, you assume, that match, you have Wardlow versus MJF, who, is an average-sized wrestler. Does it make sense to you that Wardlow would be going through bigger wrestlers each week and maybe being overexposed? Possibly, because, again, the Butcher was this week. Butcher's a bigger guy. He's one of the bigger guys on the roster. Archer's much taller than Wardlow. Do you think it makes sense to have him against all these big guys, or should it be a different direction?
All right, since we don't know exactly where we are in the timeline of this, we're just guessing. But my thought is what's been working has been working. Have Wardlow powerbomb the small guy 4 times and stand on his chest every week, sweetening it up with the security and these other little tricks of the trade or whatever. And somewhere right before you're going to pull the trigger on the match that everybody wants to see, Wardlow versus MJF, which better be on a pay-per-view, then MJF pulls an ace out of his sleeve and has not necessarily a bigger wrestler, but a more top wrestler, a more main event guy, a better recognized wrestler, regardless of his size, somebody that people can buy, but also an experienced guy that's not going to botch spots with Wardlow because he's green and is going to be able to put Wardlow over as a dominant monster force while still keeping his cachet in the industry, whoever's doing the job, because he's an experienced veteran. And maybe you do that. Maybe you save the actual not only top guy, but bigger guy or guy that's as big as Wardlow for his final hurdle, his final labor that he has to surpass to get to MJF, and then maybe it's a little competitive, but still Wardlow, you keep him unbeaten and you keep his momentum going. I don't think you just put job guys in and give them 4 or 5 minutes so they can be competitive for a couple minutes just because the guy's the same size as Wardlow. Just no, keep him with little guys that are flunkies and then feed him a fucking more recognized talent that you can afford to have do a job in a high-profile situation, and then maybe give him the big beast that he has to slay, the dragon, right before he gets to the fucking evil wizard or whatever.
And at some point, he destroys Spears.
Well, yes. And that, that could not even be a match. That can be just an incident, whatever the case. But you know who was up next, don't you? They sent for him. He showed up. He didn't have his chips. Hook versus Anthony Henry. And I had one question at the beginning. How does he make his hair do that? It's just all over the place. It looks, like a fucking, it was the Doc in Back to the Future, only he's not gray.
Doc Brown. So
Hook got all over him with suplexes and cross faces and blah, blah, blah. And fucking beat him quickly as he should with the tap out, the red rum. But Danhausen comes out and tries to curse him during the match while he's going into his finish. And the announcer's like, well, it didn't work. You think it didn't work? They're surprised it didn't. Somehow Hook is invulnerable to this fucking guy cursing people. How could he have accomplished this? Remember I said, like the Danhausen stuff, when I was hearing audio of his interviews about everyday life, once you apply him to wrestling, can't stand it. So I wrote Taz should suplex somebody for letting this fucking Danhausen into this. They're going to fuck this kid up. And then Danhausen gets on the microphone and says some stupid shit in that voice and gives Hook the finger point where he puts his finger in Hook's chest and Hook just walks off. If he'd grabbed Danhausen and fucking suplexed him out of his shoes, they'd have thrown the babies in the air. But a fucking Halloween store reject punks Hook out and sticks his finger in his face, and Hook just ignores him and walks off. So they had something there till they dropped it. What'd you think?
You know, we're talking about people who have been there from the very beginning and how they need to freshen things up. Danhausen got a big reaction from the people. Even though he hasn't been explained and he hasn't done much, those fans know who he is and reacted to him. And I'm not justifying any of this because I think Hook should be kept far away from any of this silliness because he seems serious. But maybe Danhausen's just the new Orange Cassidy. You know, Orange Cassidy doesn't mean what he did a few years ago to those ironic fans. Now they got Danhausen. He's a better upgraded Orange Cassidy. A gimmick. Nothing but a gimmick out there. Maybe not as insulting as Orange Cassidy, because at least people... Although I did see something. Did you see the thing with William Regal last week?
No.
I guess it was after...
What thing?
It must have been after the show, but they taped it and put it on YouTube where Danhausen put a spell on William Regal, and William Regal put it over. Started getting wobbly legs and pretending like he was really cursed, while Moxley and Danielson stood there and watched the festivities.
Speaking of festivities, the fastidious festivities of Sammy and his little girl bitch face are in the ring. As I'm telling you, as long as she just stands there and makes faces, she is a money-drawing heel. When she tries to do anything physical or say anything, well, she shits the bed there, but that face. And now Sammy's doing the full-fledged heel promo. My girl is hotter than yours. So again, I would love to know the answer one of these days of whether they planned this all along and it actually came off very well, or whether they just saw that these two annoying dipshits were getting on people's nerves and decided to run with it. We'll find out. But here comes Scorpio Sky and the other Page and Dan Lambert out to take up for the people. We talked about this earlier in the show. What the hell and French fried titty fuck is going on here? Dan Lambert comes out and is the voice of reason, telling Sammy Guevara that they're acting like high school douchebags and being the stern parent to the young little delinquents. Dan Lambert and Page, the other Page, he actually did a good promo. I think he really doesn't like Sammy Guevara because he's not been that good before, that believable. So apart from that, you have Lambert, who has been the absolute, when I say biggest heel, I'm not talking about, no, he's not the biggest money-drawing heel. I'm talking about the most irredeemable anti-AEW fan guy on their program. And now he's coming out telling Sammy Guevara and his little girl bitch face the things they need to know how to modify their behavior, and the people are with him. What is happening?
I don't know. I mean, I've not been a fan of Lambert's act at all. Now it's just weird. To me, the highlight of this thing was Ethan Page, and I know we've gone time and time over why you think what you do, and I'm not going to disagree with why you feel that way. But so many guys do stupid shit. He's got size. He's good on the mic. He looks like a dick.
I'll give you that.
Like, to me, he's a guy I would do something with. You stick him with Scorpio Sky, it drags him down because nobody gives a fuck about Scorpio Sky. He did a promo on this show with Kazarian, setting up, eventually it seems like a match with Kazarian and him, which no one will care about. And Sky wasn't that good on the mic. Ethan Page killed it on the mic here. And Lambert, again, he's Vicky Guerrero. You hear him yelling, but you're not really giving a shit.
Yeah. Well, explain to me what was revealed, released, announced, made, modified, or whatever at the end of this promo. Basically, the bone of contention is that Scorpio Sky wants a rematch with Sammy for the belt, and Sammy agrees to it if they will give him a mixed tag match. Yeah. And then they say, okay. And then Sammy says, well, then next week, Sky, it's you and me in a ladder match. So Sky wants a match. Sammy says, okay, if you give me a mixed tag match. He never mentions who the mixes are. Who are the people He don't say that. The opponents that have been challenged to a mixed tag match, even though there is not a female on their side in camera range, say okay without bothering to ask who the fuck you want or who's in it. And then Sammy makes it in the last go-home line a ladder match between him and Sky next week, which is all we need. Again, another unwatchable festivity of flatulence. So that's the matches that they somehow made, kind of.
You know, they announce another one later on. I'd like someone to see. I'd like to know if there's a list of the amount of AEW gimmick matches. Week by week, how many gimmick matches are there on Dynamite in a given year? Are there 52 gimmick matches? Because they announce a ladder match, they build up to a mixed match, and like I said, that's not the only gimmick match announced on this show.
Well, but Tony's got a lot of notes. Tony's been making notes for years. So the next event was Danielle Camella versus Dr. Britt Baker. And obviously, they're in Pittsburgh, so Britt Baker is over. Obviously, I didn't have time to peruse this match in great detail, but she does a promo afterwards. Britt Baker does. Great, not only great heel stuff, but it's her hometown and it still works, because she's not being a heel on those particular people. But she did a good job. As we mentioned, you know, I thought so, just because... You know, it's her hometown, the people are in it, and she's speaking after her short little match, and you didn't like it?
I thought this was by far the worst Britt Baker promo maybe since she first turned heel. First of all, she was out of breath. She couldn't get through a sentence.
Well, she just worked.
And I just thought her material didn't work. And I don't know. I felt like this completely missed the mark, and the promo wasn't getting over. She's over with those people.
Yeah.
I don't think the promo did anything. I don't think the promo did any good at all.
Well, there wasn't a point to a lot of it, just to let her hometown fans hear her talk anyway. So she may have been twisting on the material. But did you see? She's got two members of the Pittsburgh Steelers in the ring with her, right? I don't know anything about football. Don't have any idea who they are. But one of the football players, when she finished the promo and the announcers are about to pitch and they're starting to play the bumper music or whatever, one of the football players grabs the microphone and tries to start on it, and they cut it. And you saw a little shot of him just going to town saying something to himself in the ring, but nobody else was hearing it. That was my favorite part. They ought to do that more often.
Just turn off the mic?
Yes. And not tell the guy, because you can hear yourself talking, right? So that's why a lot of people, you'll see, is this on? Because they can't tell, lest they can hear themselves over the speakers. So just let it's on, go talk all you want. Main event time, Brian. Talked about gimmick match. A coffin match. Darby Allin versus Andre Olio. Because the sum total of reason for this is Darby Allin does a move that he calls the coffin drop. And the Undertaker ain't involved in this. This is not a long-running blood feud. This is certainly not the WWF of the 90s. They just got to have a coffin match because that's fun for Tony Khan to write that down. A coffin match. And it's no DQ. Lazy booking. Darby Allin in the first 30 seconds is whacking Andre with the skateboard. And shortly after that, as in seconds, Private Party just run in. And they just attacked Darby Allin and beat him up in front of the referee, God, and everybody. Andre throws him through the barricade. All the heels beat him up in front of a fan on the other side of the railing who's dressed as Sting. But turns out it is Sting. And he takes his Sting mask off and has the Sting face paint underneath. And here comes the rest of Andre's former House of Hardy. Before they got Jeff and Hardy couldn't keep house anymore. And there's Sting and there's Darby and there's whoever, and they have a big 10-man fight in the arena with garbage cans. And there was 10 more minutes at that point left in this program, and I said, I'm fucking done. Did I miss anything?
Nah, I really don't think so. And I also don't think this feud needed this match. I don't think anyone cares about Andrade. I think Darby hasn't been used properly in a little while. I brought up the other gimmick matches. You missed the other one. They announced Serena Deeb versus Hikaru Shida Philadelphia Street Fight next week.
Oh, I forgot about that. I was slow on my fast forward finger and taking it off fast forward and zipped right past that. But so next week they'll have a 10-man tag, a ladder match, and a Philadelphia Street Fight all in the same 2 hours, plus more. Remember, can you imagine the response from any wrestling fan in the United States of America in 1988 if we described, yes, they were fighting on the floor, and then the other guy came out, and then they had garbage cans, and there was 10 of them. They're fighting all over the arena. People be like, oh, shit, I wish I'd have seen, I've never seen anything like that before. How did I miss that? And now they say, oh, they did that again? Oh, I saw that last week.
I know, it was a bad show. It just felt like it went downhill from the beginning, and also the hottest act, or one of the hottest act. I hate to use the word act. I know you hate it, but it's just.
I don't like that word.
You don't like that act?
I don't like that act.
The hottest thing the last few weeks has been FTR. Not on the show. The only mention of them is Seconds. There's a graphic put up for Seconds announcing next week Cash versus Dax.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yes, in the tournament.
Not even in the tournament, as a qualifying match to get into the tournament.
It's not a tournament match, it's just a qualifier.
But the crowd, as soon as they saw FTR on their screen, they popped. You heard it. Go back and watch the tape. They weren't on the show, or at least maybe they were on Rampage or something else, but they weren't on Dynamite. And I think right now, where everyone's getting behind them, you should use them more, not use them well off TV. They'll come back against each other. What? That doesn't work.
Well, and somebody on Twitter said, well, Cornette's not going to like that because that's when I went in the new Midnight Express experiment, Bart Gunn and Bob Holly, that was foisted on me. Like, you got to here, keep your stepchildren for the weekend. It's not that I didn't like them. I didn't want a new Midnight Express, but when they booked them in the opening round of the Brawl for All, that's when I took the after we'd done a job to the Headbangers in the opening match in Atlantic City the previous night or wherever, I went in and said, this is a good time for me to bow out. I'm done. I'm re-retiring as a manager. This ain't getting over. It ain't going to work. And now you've got these guys fighting before they're established as a tag team. Tag team partners wouldn't fight. Of course, shit stays, well, this is real. He wanted to tell everybody that all the other shit we were doing was fine. I said, well, that'll really get them over. Hey, we've been a fake wrestling team, but now we're going to have a real fight against each other. I don't mind tag team partners wrestling under certain circumstances. And usually it's a tournament situation with a blind draw. Wasn't that Dory and Terry Funk in that famous, 56-minute single match they did for Baba in Japan in what was it, 1981?
Yeah, I think it was either 80 or 81, so I think it was 81.
Was that either the finals or the semifinals of the Champion Carnival Series, right?
It was a big match in the Champion Carnival Series, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only time they ever wrestled.
Exactly. And we did the same thing in Ring of Honor with the Briscoe brothers in 2009 or 10 with a tournament for the TV championship where it's blind draw. And oh my God, because that's intrigue. And they wrestle without trying to kill each other, but they have good matches because they're brothers and they're competitors and they're athletes, but they don't have a blood feud going. And you can have intrigue like that. And if you're trying to split a team up, well, then you can play with it all over the place and cause ill will. But a tag team normally that's just still trying to get over, or if it's not a tournament situation, you know, that to me, I know the guys, FTR, they wanted to have a match against each other to show what they can do again, because they're the only ones they can show what they can really do against each other. But it shouldn't have been a qualifier to get in the tournament. can you imagine if both guys won qualifiers to get in the tournament and then won their first round match, and because of the bracketing, they were fucking set against each other in the second round? That way, they've each got singles wins, which both of them could use for some credibility. And then they had no idea, or not no idea, but they certainly hoped that they wouldn't have to face each other on their path to the finals. But now here we are, so we're going to make the best of it. And then, honestly, if they each had one or two singles victories each, I'd Broadway them and eliminate both of them and give somebody else that would have faced them in the third round a bye and show that it can happen. And there's no clear-cut, definitive better man between Dax or Cash.
Well, again, my point was they should have been on this show.
Hey, Freddie Farm Bureau should have been on this fucking... They could have used anybody on this show.
And one more thing before I end my AEW thoughts. And once again, I remind everyone, I'm under the weather. But
yes, you are. The weather is on top of you.
Tony Khan's been using Punk pretty well. He's starting off a lot of shows with hot matches with Punk. Now they're teasing Punk versus Adam Page. The MJF Wardlow stuff's been pretty good typically. This week was somewhat of a miss for various reasons. To me, the biggest disappointment, and I know AEW fans love the Blackpool Combat Club.
Danielson.
The Danielson segments were becoming one of the highlights of the show. Since that time, he doesn't talk. He was so good on the mic, playing against those fans. He hasn't talked since. And now he's just buried in six-man matches. And I know people like them. I shouldn't use the word buried, but there was something else happening, and it was special. And they should have ridden that wave instead of doing this with Bryan Danielson. Put someone else in this group. This was not the right fit for him right now.
They deprived their company of the best working heel in the business today, and who was doing incredible shit and doing incredible promos and making it look effortless and getting people interested. And as you said, now he's in six-man tags, a mute with a glorified indie fucking garbage deathmatch guy and a fucking up-and-coming young jobber as his partners. Anyway, that was the AEW program. That's caught us up on this past week in wrestling, except for NXT, which, to be honest, I read the reviews, and there was not a single goddamn thing on that program that I had wished that I'd seen, so I didn't.